days are incredibly full right now. It's mid-March and we are in full swing in doing our shipping. And what I thought I would do at the end of a long, nice day here is take a wander through our shipping area, just give folks a sense of what it looks like on the back end of how Edible Acres works, and then a quick look in the garden and maybe a bop out to the high tunnel out at our neighbor's land. That's doing pretty nicely. So a couple things to talk about. The wild scene here in our backyard. This is our friend George, who probably a lot of you have met. A lot of you who have orders will have his paw prints on your receipt because he'll periodically jump on our table. I think I've shown this area before to folks, but just in case you're interested, there's Lenny. This is where I work throughout most of the day. You can see our gloves that I talked about recently in the video. We got lots of pairs of these around. It's still pretty cool in the morning. So here's where I'll pull printed orders and we'll start putting labels together and things. And this is the area where Juan does wrapping and that kind of work. On the inside, this whole crazy scene is where Sasha tends to be during the days, putting boxes together. And this tiny backyard gets transformed into a crazy warehouse of plant material. We had a pretty intense freeze last night, so we had to take all the crates of filled plants and put them in the in ground contact and put burlap sacks on top. But that's why we work with super hardy perennial plants. They can handle that very easily. You can see all these different bulb crates have different plant material healed into sawdust and soil. It's like there's senna, and there are some yasta berries. It's a whole big mix. We just pull from here as we go. So big root geranium in an order, cool, we'll pull from here. At the end of the day, we make sure everything's nicely hydrated with some fresh rainwater and settled back in. Like for example, I see these sea kales need to get a little bit more sawdust over them before we call it a night. But this is a routine we've gotten used to over the years for sure. George and Lenny keep it feeling more insane than it needs to be, so that's always fun. He's always sitting right next to his stick, ready for a good throw. Watch out, Lenny. You can see where we're storing all of our cuttings. It's a major part of what we do here. So we pre-flight packages of cuttings and get them organized and labeled so we can pull them as we assemble orders. And you can see we've got a lot of different cuttings. Over the years, we've amassed a lot of different plant material. Every single container is a different named variety of willow and elderberry and currants. Just a ginormous amount of genetics that we can send out into the world in really inexpensive ways to get people kickstarting on their own journey of growing these plants out. Probably process a few, 10,000 cuttings a year at this point. And these are all recycled pots with folding tables we got at farm closures or at yard sales and things like that. So it's a really leveraging waste stream to make the most out of holding this plant material. And as long as they're in good contact with sawdust or soil, they can handle very cold nights, no problem. Pretty kooky scene that we've evolved into over the years, but it's really pretty functional too. The amount of embodied energy and consumption for us to be able to do this work is really, really minimal. It's amazing how much you can build a pretty productive business based on mainly waste stream and really hardy plants that you propagate in really simple and accessible ways. You can see the garden area is in real hybrid mode. All the worked up areas I'm doing with a little hand tool as time allows. We do double stripes of edge context where we can do an annual crop and then an herbaceous nursery crop, and then the interior of this will be planted out. So for example, we might put Japanese plum seeds in the bulk of this and some mammoth melting snow peas and some sugar snap peas on that section, and then maybe this is all seed of Good King Henry, and then finally some sort of nice red lettuce. Really complex garden beds. We've talked about that in the past. Some of these beds are getting just roughly sketched and shaped up as plant material comes out. So this is still in a moment where it's holding huge numbers of trees that we need for doing our shipping and for local stuff. So this is a beautiful Ashworth bur oak, low tannin oak. Seedling all through here. There's maybe 100 or so. Tons of bitternut hickory and all sorts of osage and hazelnuts. All these healed in plants that are going to be looking for homes this spring. We're definitely done taking the number of orders that we can process in a timely manner for shipping, but keep an eye out. We'll make an announcement for local and regional bare root sales. We've got huge amounts of plants that will be available for folks that want to come pick them up in person. Probably over the next 2 weeks or so, we'll make a video about it. And you can see the garden is really starting to shape up a little bit. We've got some beds that are very shortly going to be transitioning over. Sasha and I were just looking at this bed, and it's healed in with all sorts of honeyberries and Japanese walnuts, western sand cherry, some grapes. All this will get pulled and either potted up or planted out into the landscape. And then she'll transition this probably into bulb fennel and nasturtium in the weeks to come as things warm up. And then some of the beds are actually fully set in motion. So wherever there's hay, that means as a signal for all of us, we know that this is going in a direction now. So we've got cuttings of goji berry in the center, then transplants of little lettuce and perennial kale, and then a whole sort of medley of seeded lettuce in there with Siberian peach seeds through the center of that, and then rhubarb and good King Henry around the edges of a bed of plums with lettuce and arugula on the edges. So very complex gardens that actually are extremely functional. The most interacted with food for us rides the very edge. Herbaceous perennials that we can also eat go a little further in, and then our main cash crop of trees from seed go in the very center where it's hardest to reach. And so as we go through and dig beds out, we can heal them right back in and then pull those plants as we need them. So this was Siberian peach and bronze fennel last year, so we'll be pulling those for orders. And then as soon as they're all out, we can decide what this section of bed will be too. There's an intensity to this kind of reality where all of our annual aspirations, all of our future nursery aspirations, the air prune boxes, the trees from seed, the cuttings, all of that has to happen while we're actively assembling and finalizing orders. All of that has to happen at the same time and before things get too warm and things leaf out. It's a very, very intense moment in the spring. There's a lot all at once, but it's something that we're trying to learn to adapt to and understand, fold folks in at the right time when we need a push for extra labor. It's all a dance, and it's all something we're learning as we go. So hopefully folks out there are learning some things too and appreciating that we're sharing the wildness of this whole journey. I want to take a very quick look into the high tunnel here, but I want to reserve the deeper tour for when I have a better moment. Highlight some of the great things that are happening, but you can see there's lots and lots of green coming up in this space. There's arugula and lettuce. All of our onion starts are starting to come up in rows and rows in there. Lots and lots of greens for both transplanting and then directly eating out of here. This space is doing wonderfully well, but I'm going to save that deeper dive for another time as time allows. For now, I've got a bunch of cuttings to process for an Amish friend of mine, and to finish a bunch of really large elderberry staves that I'm going to be trading for hard cider, kombucha, and apples, and trying to wrap up things and make sure all the plants are hydrated for the evening. Hope wherever you are in life and in this season, things are moving in a brisk and rewarding and manageable way.